Welcome into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by the Topoco Lodge. This Friday, the Lodge will reopen for weekend business. They've completed their annual winter upkeep routine, and now they are ready to welcome you back to their beautiful mountain hideaway location right on the rushing Cheoah River. It is a gorgeous place. Topoco.com to book your stay and to learn more. You can find them also at Facebook, and they're all over social media. I think they've got an Instagram account, but just if the videos, the photos, you can see for yourself, it's a tremendous place, but the photos don't do it justice, to be honest with you. You've got to get up there and see it for yourself. It's a terrific place, the Topoco Lodge. Great place for you to get away and spend a little time. All right. I want to welcome in the next member of our panel right there, Bob Hodge. I see him through the glass.
Good morning.
Bob, longtime sports writer here in East Tennessee. Thanks for joining us. All right. Talk around town continues to be Josh Heupel's coaching staff, or lack thereof. UT has not officially announced anyone for some reason, and they want to do the all-at-once rollout. I have no idea why, but they have some members who are already working on recruiting who are in town. Let's go ahead and look at what we think the staff's going to be. Basically, it's his UCF staff on offense, okay? You see the guys, Alex Golesh, Joey Halsley, Heupel, Halsley, those guys are not going to have their names pronounced right a lot. Glenn Ellerby, Cody Burns, Matt Merritt. Now, Merritt, Ellerby, Halsley, Golesh were from UCF. Burns, he had just hired. He's coming back here. Top three guys have already been working on recruiting here. A couple of them already have office space over there, so we know they're coming. Kurt Schmidt, Director of Sports Performance, otherwise known as Strength Coach, he's coming up here as well. So those listed roles, as you see them there, are what they were on his UCF staff. Here's my first question. We'll make this one kind of quick, and Bob, I'll start with you. Bringing his whole offensive staff, we know he's got a great offense at UCF. Do you have concerns that you're bringing a bunch of UCF guys up here?
Not really. I think that the situation that Heupel is in, with everything hanging over him, you're losing personnel, et cetera, go with familiarity. I mean, go with the guys you've worked with in the past. You're coming into what appears to be a really tough situation. So why make it tougher by bringing in unfamiliarity? So I'm kind of expected his offensive staff to come with him in a sense. Mm-hmm. It just makes sense.
I think the track record also makes it a little more palatable for people. When you look at what they do with 500 yards a game and 40 points, It's like, okay, I'll give you a little bit of leeway here.
And I think, too, ultimately, Tennessee just had a bunch of Bama guys. Recruiting is the only thing that I would be somewhat concerned about if you haven't spent a ton of time at the big place. Yep. You haven't been at Alabama where you're recruiting the same guys, just doing it in a different jacket now. Familiarity is a big part of it. And I think, too, I feel like I'm getting old on this panel. I covered Cody Burns' high school football career. Yikes. Anyway.
You feel like you're getting old.
But, man, I saw that name this week, and I was like, oh, gosh.
Well, but it's such a unique type of approach, right, to offense. The tempo you're going to be running. The last thing you want is for your head coach to be coaching as assistants, which we heard so much, it seemed like, about Jeremy Pruitt, that he was doing this and doing that.
Yeah, there's some issues between him and Mr. Brumbaugh, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it makes sense, especially on offense, and then you can talk about defense.
Let's get into that, because that's what everybody's wondering about. And the search, well, it's just ongoing. Let's take a look at some of the names that have been kicked around. If you guys have extra names here, you can throw them out there. Kevin Steele, who's already on staff as a defensive assistant, he was given a 2-year deal by Philip Fulmer worth $900,000. So if you fire him, you don't offer him something and he doesn't turn it down. If you have to fire him, you're going to owe him $900,000, which I think it would be nice for Philip Fulmer to take that $1.3 million he's getting and just give $900,000 to Steele and not stick UT with another $1 million. Matt House, linebacker coach for the Chiefs. His name has been kicked around a lot. He has been defensive coordinator at Kentucky. Some of the good defenses that got Kentucky into better bowl games with Mark Stoops up there. Has ties, obviously has history in the SEC. That name's been around. Brian Brown, the defense coordinator at Louisville, they made an offer to him. He stayed where he was. Todd Orlando, he's going to Southern Cal, wasn't interested. John Jancic has been kicked around. People remember him. He was here under Butch Jones. Mm-hmm. And then they got rid of him and brought in Bob Shoop, and things went downhill. Jancic went on to South Florida, and this past year he's quality control coach. Basically, he's going through Kirby Smart's version of the Nick Saban car wash down there. And then former Vol Casey Rogers, who was a former defensive coordinator for the New York Jets, spent a career basically in the NFL. been rumored. He's in the Super Bowl, so 2 guys in the Super Bowl. Defensive line coach of the Buccaneers, his name has been kicked around as well. Anything stand out to you guys about this search so far?
I think 2 things. One is that assistant coaches see this job in the same way that head coaches did, where there's a lot of negatives. Now, I will say the one positive I think you have is, at least if you're trying to read in the tea leaves at this point, it seems like Josh Heupel says, I'm going to coach the offense. We want to get a high-powered defense coordinator in here. You're going to get to fill out your staff, and you're going to handle defense. Now, that was sort of the plan with Jeremy Pruitt on offense, but he got his hand in the cookie jar a lot. Josh Heupel's going to have some influence on his defense, but it seems like you're going to have your head coach the defense there. And so that's attractive if a guy wants to come in and run his whole situation. But, Tennessee, the talent drain is serious. We'll talk about that later. You may have NCAA sanctions, recruiting, all that. And Tennessee's a tough place in general.
Well, you also got a situation. Does the defensive coordinator want to come in with this offense?
Right, yes.
Right. That's definitely a big part
Because you're
of it.
looking at his offensive numbers over the past 3 years, and you go, wow, that's really good. Then you look at his defensive numbers, and it's not so good. Well, you can point the finger at the coordinator, or you can point the finger at, well, your offense just went out there and went 3 and out twice and burned 45 seconds off the clock.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of more traditional defensive coordinators, they may want to take their time about this, because are you going to be put in a bad position?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. If you're a defensive coordinator, you're looking at this saying, what does this mean for my career down the road?
Yeah.
And we know what's Tennessee's history. That's not good in terms of, you don't want to be a coach at Tennessee. Aside from getting money, there's not much good about it. You're also looking at this offense. Okay, my stats aren't going to look good coming out of here. Now, a football mind's going to know that I was handcuffed by an offense, but is that going to help me on my next stop? It's not a great gig. It's just not.
Well, it's almost like being a defensive coordinator in the Arena Football League. I mean, those guys were happy with doing that and say, hey, look at my resume. We only allowed 42 points a game.
Well, and there's been talk that Kevin Steele has a history of this. He's worked with the up-tempo deal at Auburn. Let's take a look at some stats there, as a matter of fact. That's the offensive time of possession number for Auburn. As you can see, 11th in the SEC, 9th in the SEC, 12th in the SEC, 5th in the SEC, 9th in the SEC. Josh Heupel is going to be 13th or 14th in the SEC every single year. Okay? Gus Malzahn runs that. Their up-tempo means get to the line, and then we're going to stand there and get the signal in as I stare over it, the quarterback stares over at the sideline. That is not what Heupel does, apparently. But Steele has had some good success there. It's just, it's not the rapid-fire offense that people think compared to Heupel's. Heupel's is hyper speed compared to Malzahn. The Steele thing, it's been kicked around. I keep saying the word kicked around. It's been mentioned, perhaps speculated, that he's simply not aggressive enough. That Heupel is someone who views the offense. This day and age is about offense, which I wouldn't disagree with. He views it as, if you're not scoring, I mean, if you're not stopping the other guy and getting the ball back to me, then go ahead and let him score quickly and give me the ball back. It's that way. He wants somebody who's going to bring that aggression. He said it in his opening press conference. I don't think in his case this is simply lip service. You always say, well, we're going to be aggressive. I think he means that.
Negative
I think
plays
he wants
and
an
turnovers.
attacking defense. So again, you're taking your defensive coordinator pool and getting it smaller and smaller, and then you weed out the guys who don't want it. The idea is, and he said this on national radio, that he will have most of his staff put together by tomorrow. We'll see. We'll see.
And where is that defensive coordinator? And is there a guy that's really better and has done more than Kevin Steele? I mean, when you look at some of the things.
Again, I just went through the reasons that.
Maybe Kevin Steele's not all that interested in it. I mean, he's going to have a $900,000 parting gift if he walks away. Now, the question is, okay, if we've offered it to him and he turns it down, I guess you don't get that money. I don't know exactly how.
Yeah, you probably, more than likely, you offer him a linebacker coach job. And if he says no, you don't have to pay him anything. That would be the best scenario.
I think fans have to look at this more from the perspective of a guy that probably doesn't have a tie to Tennessee, that doesn't love Tennessee. Like, for assistants and head coaches, you have sort of your destination jobs, your stepping stone jobs, your dead-end jobs. For a long time, Tennessee was a destination for a lot of people. Assistants were here a long time. Head coaches were here a long time. Well, guess where Tennessee's at right now?
Yeah.
You look at the last decade, it's not a stepping stone and it's not a destination. So there's another option, and it's
Hold
not
it, let
the
me
most.
guess.
It's not the most attractive one. So yeah, that's where you're at right now.
Well, and also let's take a look at how might Josh Heupel look at Kevin Steele. Okay, the word coming out of Auburn is Kevin Steele pulled a Fulmer on Gus Malzahn. He tried to stab him in the back and get the job, and almost did, and then the fans blew up. If you're Josh Heupel, and I'm not saying that's true, I'm just telling you that's what most people think is true. That's what's reported down there. If that's true and you're Josh Heupel, do you want to bring this guy in as your defense coordinator? Somebody who might backstab you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a legitimate worry.
He's got much deeper ties here than Heupel does.
Steele does. Yes.
Steele does.
Still does.
Yeah, those guys are typically paranoid, most coaches. That may be something you're looking at in terms of who do I put on the staff. You guys are staring at me like I'm saying evil things here.
I mean, it's just, I just hope everything
We
sorts
speak-
itself out sooner than later.
If take this someplace else and you don't have some history here, say for maybe the past 26, 27 years or so, and you go, oh, come on. But I think we've seen it.
Twice.
I think you've seen it. So who's to
Twice
say?
indeed.
Well, and there's a reason Jeremy Pruitt's house
AD.
just went on the market for $3.4 million, and on the same street, Butch Jones' house is also still for sale.
I have a scheduled.
And you can call Chuck Cavalera's Realty. Yeah. All right. When we come back, let's roll this topic into the next segment and continue on. We'll talk quick hitters on where some other coaches are going, price tags, that kind of stuff, and the rush. Why is this taking 10 whole days? Come on back. We'll discuss.